All right. How's it? Check, 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 check. Hello, check. Up a little bit. Can we get up a little bit more? Hello, welcome. Check, 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 check. Okay, okay, cool. We're probably gonna need to move this stuff up because we gotta get away from that speaker.
So we're gonna have to go this way.
You're gonna have to go backwards. I think he's turning me up back there. I should move everything up.
Here should be in the center just so I can like
Check, check, check. Ah, see, there we go. Now you can hear me, right? It's amazing. Microphones, I love them. And slowly count down from 5, 4, 3. This may not work. 2. Eichenberger, I'm the head of corporate engagement for Insider Louisville, and we are thrilled that you're here. You know, that's how you tell the difference. If you are from a brewery tonight and you're on our panel, you'll see a beer. They all have, they're sporting beers that I can only dream about at night. It's quite nice. Thank you for joining us. We are thrilled that you're here to hear our illustrious panel of folks who are going to talk about the business of craft beer. A few housekeeping things real quick. Those folks are members. And that is provide local journalism. The opportunity for you to become one of those. There's an easy reason. You can do that as well. We are also live streaming tonight. Your week. I'm just here to get the housekeeping out of the way. But if you read much Insider Louisville, you know the name Kevin Gibson. He's been writing for us for a long time. Yeah, let's give a hand to Kevin Gibson. A musician, a writer, an author. He's got tons of books. The whole thing. Look him up. Insider.com. And I will turn it over to him to introduce our panel. Thank you for being here to discuss the business of craft beer. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Gibson.
Thank you. All right, we're going on this day of terrible weather. There's beer. You probably know that already. I've got some interesting people here with me that are very important in our beer community around the state and around the city. Sitting next to me here is Derek Selznick. He's from the Kentucky Guild of Brewers. We've got Adam Watson from Against the Grain, and we have them all wearing Brewers, and Kyle Tavares. And then we'll have them discuss. Here comes that first question coming at you. You ready? How's the scene in Louisville?
Over the last decade, we have more than doubled our production. But not only just to our production, now in Henderson, we are in. Really, what we have seen is kind of just of craft beer throughout the state, and whether it is on a very small nano-sized brewery system of even like a half barrel or a barrel, or if it's all the way up to 30 barrel systems like Against the Grain. against the grain.
I require that of him. Yeah, I mean, he handled most of the statistics. I think it's a big deal that when we opened Against the Grain, we were, I think, the 7th brewery in the state. Now I can barely keep track. 58, you said?
58 licenses.
So that's, I mean, it's been incredible just to see the growth all across the state. Really nice seeing the cultures of all of these different about craft beer has certainly evolved over the last 5 or 6 years. When we first opened, we started to embrace all of the weird, crazy aspects of craft brewing and have started to be interested in the intricacies of product. So we're no longer just looking for the 5 or 6 kinds of beer that you've heard before, but people are willing to try beers they haven't heard before because customers are becoming more educated. They're a little more open to the weird spectrum of products that are available out there, and I think brewers are more willing to brew in that spectrum because customers are more willing to drink it and bar owners are more willing to carry it. There's going to be nothing about it.
Answer to your question.
If you guys have an answer, we'll start with you next time, and we'll take the next question.
That's a good point.
I agree with what they said.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we talked about open-mindedness in the market, talked about growth. So where do you see these trends leading us in the future?
The trends of craft beer in general.
Of what Kevin just talked about.
Oh, well, there's just a lot of excitement in the whole state with the number of craft breweries and the creativity of all these individual brewers. I mean, everybody. The Brewers Association every year has to revamp their style guidelines because of the creativity.
I agree with Leah. I'm really great at these things. Anyway, one thing that kind of excites me about this is so many great that's not made by Anheuser-Busch or Miller Coors or some form of brewery that they own, that's made by local people that they know that they can interact with because we're not big faceless corporations. I mean, if you call before 4 o'clock on a weekday, more than likely one of our we are accessible, and I think that it's something that Kentuckians can be proud of and support, and that's kind of what I'm excited about. Derek talked about Henderson. I'm from Henderson, so I'm really excited that Henderson's getting a brewery because it's a what would you call that? A desert of craft beer. Like, I mean, they opened a restaurant 2 years ago that served craft beer, and I think that they probably still sold more Miller and Bud like AB products than anything. But I think just giving people access to it is
Okay, and now a question that is near and dear to Derek's heart. He loves fielding this one. Is market saturation a concern at this point? 58 brewers licensed, right? Is market saturation a thing, a concern?
Okay, how many people watch Game of Thrones in this room? Shame this man. No, I'm serious. I want to hear it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Asheville, North Carolina has more breweries than the entire state of Kentucky. So no, we're not anywhere close to market saturation. Yes, he did throw this question in just to goad me because he knows it raises my blood pressure and pisses me off. So, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Well, you did first.
Beehole. So, one of the biggest things is if you look at the way the craft beer market is going across the country, oversaturated markets like Massachusetts, Colorado, Oregon, you're starting to see a slowdown of growth. And by a slowdown of growth, I mean a growth percentage of 5%. Now, I don't know if anybody else is in business, but how many of you would trade a 5% year-over-year growth rate as the absolute basement of growth, right? Most businesses would think that's a good thing. In the state of Kentucky, we have our employees, and I think production's one thing, but really looking at the health of an year after year after year. Adam doesn't even know anybody that works for him anymore. They're that big. And he just doesn't. When, you know, we opened up 11 in 2016, we opened up 13 in 2017. We're going to open 17 in 2018. Absolutely not, because part of what this is also is as we open up those rural markets, right? When E-Town opens up, when Henderson opens up, you're much more likely to take a chance on something your neighbor is brewing and somebody that you're familiar with, and then kind of dip your toe into the craft beer market. And so what that does is it actually opens up for tap handles for all three of these breweries. It opens up for package that is coming from Against the Grain, that's coming from Mile Wide and West Six, and Country Boy and Braxton and all those folks. So no, I don't see us anywhere near a saturation point. I mean, I honestly, and I talked to Bart Watson, who's the chief economist for the Brewers Association, kind of our parent group, and we kind of said, like, it's going to be 5 years before we even think about dipping below 20% growth rate. So no, I'm not exactly worried about saturation.
Anybody else?
Adam, you want to weigh in?
Sure, why not? I'll talk about anything. First, I taught Derek everything he knows. So that's all me. I field this question a lot from legislators who think that we're starting to approach some kind of ceiling, that beer laws need to start being more punitive or something. The reality of it is we really are so far from any kind of a ceiling. I think especially as things really globalize, we're starting to see customers very, very interested in that hyper-localization. They want to be able to do what Kyle was talking about and call the tap room or walk into the tap room and experience the people who are making the product that they are consuming. Because you want more than a product. You can find awesome beer from 5,000 different breweries, literally. What you really want is to be able to buy into an experience and feel like you know the people and you're part of the brewery and you are the culture that you are participating in when you drink a pint. And I think we've got forever to go for that, especially here in Kentucky. You know, that's not still got so far to go. I think you can start worrying about it when you can walk to 5 breweries within 5 minutes of your house. Then yeah, maybe we're starting to reach it, but we're a long way from there.
Well, what we always say is, as long as they keep bringing other beer into the state of Kentucky, there is more room for more local breweries. That's what we feel. Because there's a lot of beer that's being brought from all over the country into our state, and we make delicious beer here. It's going to be fresh. It's going to be made by people you know. So why not drink local? And the hyper-local movement is strong in this state. I mean, 58 breweries, that's not a lot for an entire state. If you go up to Indianapolis, Cincinnati, just a couple of hours up the road, there's like 50 in Indianapolis and around that many in Cincinnati. So, right, so we've got a long way to go.
He agrees with that.
Kyle, thank you for your insightful comments.
We're taking all this stuff to say. We're taking all this stuff.
I know, they just take all the good little blurbs and steal them from me. Anyway, I tell people beer.
Yeah. There's tickets.
Okay. She told me she might want to do it during, so I was just making sure. You did. Okay. Okay, so how many breweries do we have in Louisville now? 15 breweries now. So how do you think the rising number of breweries here in Louisville is adding to the overall experience?
I mean, I know that there's a lot of beer tourism. There are a lot of people that travel. People can come here realistically, and it's a beautiful state that we have also, but we're Louisvillians, right, most of us. And so I think that that the more breweries that pop up, I mean, I know that from us in Phoenix Hill, there's now Fall City, Gravely, Against the Grain is walking distance. Apocalypse isn't very far, so if somebody shows up to our tap room, it's not too difficult for us to be like, oh, you guys want to check out other breweries? Here's 6 other breweries that you can visit within a 5-minute drive or 15 minutes walking. And I think that about Kentucky bourbon, and they kind of have something that's not bourbon, and it's nice to get away from that. So it's kind of something that we can use along more than just bourbon. There's beer too.
And I'm gonna agree with him. We're right across the street from Midfield Tours, so we get a lot of people, and we're right off the expressway. So a lot of people are like, yeah, we're in for the whole weekend, or we're going through the state, and it's like, I think I just want to go out to eat and have a beer. And so we direct them to all the local breweries that are really close to us. I mean, he's absolutely right. To all these breweries within a really short driving distance. We have people that walk these breweries, they ride their bicycles. I mean, they can enjoy the waterfront. I mean, they're really lucky about that.
Yeah, I travel a lot with this job. The food and dining here, and I think it's above most other places. I realize I'm a little biased when I say that, but genuinely, I think the quality of the liquid is there, and I think that is what makes an excellent experience. That brings people in. We're really
Two other points. So when my wife and I traveled, this is before I took the job a 1.5 years ago, one of the things that we always did was wherever we're going, we check out what breweries are there. Like that was our form of entertainment. Like that's really what we cared about, was those were our cultural attractions. Well, it's so much of a thing that actually Travelocity has a beer tourism index. And for us in Louisville, it's important that this was coming in, it was on their radar, he looked and said, by the way, I don't know if you're staffed up for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but you're about to get slammed. And guess what happened? They got absolutely hammered, and we are what they want to do. And the other nice thing is, we don't want to do that full-blown tour or those full-blown experiences. They want to come. What he's doing is he's having a beer and the gift. The other thing I want to also say is a lot of times we focus so much on the tourism aspect that we forget about one of the great things that we have as a competitive advantage to other alcohol producers is it takes anywhere from 18 days up to 40 days to produce one of our products, to turn around something new, something fun, something original. And that's one of the things that we're able to give to the locals, as well as not just, pumping out the same 4 or 5 brands. Really, I mean, I have an honest question: how many beers did you all? Our brewery system is being able to give people new experiences and new tastes and new flavors.
Okay. 2-part question now. Start with part 1 here. It has nothing to do with saturation or problem.
Serious, because right now, in 2012, there were 2,600 licenses filed with the Tax and Trade Bureau. That's the federal licensing. Right now, there's actually 9,000. Now, that doesn't represent 9,000 breweries. That represents 9,000 individual licenses. For example, so to me, that's actually one of the biggest things, is people jumping in and thinking, oh my God, I'm opening a brewery, it's going to be awesome. But really don't understand the amount of passion, the amount of energy, and everything that goes into it. When we nobody that only drinks, they try to drinking your beer, dude. Our consumers really tend to kind of blue moon drinker, or that person that's like, well, I'm here with my wife, she dragged me here, I'm gonna try this beer for the first time, and then takes a sip and goes, and this is exactly why I don't drink craft beer. that's our biggest challenge, is being unified and making sure that we're all pushing one another to create the absolute best product that we can, at least in my mind.
That was a really good, you don't know much about this. I think, in my opinion, the biggest challenge is honestly managing growth for a lot of us. Pretty much everybody gets into this industry because they have passion and a dream, and that first layer is always built on this just wild fire, this desire to make this beautiful thing and give it to people. And then at some point you realize, like, God, this is my job and my life, and it really matters a lot more than just having fun stuff to give people. You know, now there's employees who rely on me to make the right choices, and I have mortgages, and I've bought buildings, and I have credit cards with absolutely ridiculous limits. And it becomes challenging to manage that growth and to figure out how to effectively buy your next piece of equipment, how to effectively expand into a new market, how to effectively hire a new sales fleet or a new set of bartenders or a new whatever it is. As you're acquiring all these new human and equipment assets, it becomes challenging to figure out the right way to do it, especially if, as all of us do, you wing a lot of it.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. I mean, you start with a business plan, and about 6 months in, you just throw that out the window. And you're like, oh, this is really happening. And guess what? We really love making beer, and there's all this paperwork. It's killing me. I mean,
You have to file taxes.
lots and lots. And look, I mean, all of us knew about brewing, and we knew that it's, you know, it's 15% brewing and, you know, 80%, 20% brewing and 80% cleaning. Oh, we all got that, but I had no idea how much paperwork was involved when we opened up our brewery. I mean, I worked in restaurants, I did all kinds of stuff, but had no idea about all of the rules and regulations, which are easy to follow, but the amount of paperwork and taxes that you have to pay. And then moving forward in the industry is just seeing how your business model can evolve and how it works. When we opened up our brewery, we were like, oh yeah, we're just going to be a distribution place. We're going to have this little tiny tap room and people are just going to get beer to go. No, it turned into, yeah, we have an event space and people hang out and they want to stick around, and then how are we going to then, it's a moving target, but the bottom line is you just want to keep making good beer, and that's always been my focus. And the rest will come, and hopefully I'll make my business partner do all the paperwork.
Again, I agree with everything.
That does all your paperwork, so you're fine.
Yeah, I'm in a fortunate position that I don't have to do all that paperwork, that I have a partner that's very knowledgeable and he's smart, and he does all that stuff. I get the privilege of making beer, and a lot of the challenges that I pull everything that needs capacity. We're looking for more fermenters right now, and we also have a tap room that's growing. It's like, oh, well, when are you going to build this thing? And I'm like, oh, I don't know when I'm going to build this thing. When am I going to get another 24 hours in someday? Because, as I was telling somebody earlier, the first year of Mile Wide was by far the easiest year that I've had, and that was before we opened. I worked 9 to 5, came in, built stuff, painted stuff, tore stuff down. As soon as we opened, things changed. The first 6 months, we were running, you know, we brew when we needed to brew, and Now a year in, I have to learn how to build a production schedule. Oh, we need this beer, this much of this beer then, and but I don't have tanks for that. And like, that's the biggest struggle for me, I think personally, is just going from, I love to make beer, and I want to make beer, to now I need to make this beer to satisfy all of these accounts, but I also still want to make new stuff and try new things and all of that. It's just every day is literally a new challenge for us as a 1 year and 5-month-old brewery. So I think that's the things that I can personally see is just trying to find some sort of routine, which Adam could probably speak more on that than I could. Maybe.
Yeah, there's no routine. Every day is an adventure.
I'm gonna hijack the question portion, because I think this is actually something that's really important to highlight. I mean, you're at a year and 5 months, 6 years, 6.5. What percentage of your time has changed from your original role? So, right, you originally were a brewer and did some paperwork. You originally brewed the beer. Now you still brew the beer, but one of the things that we see is a lot of people when they start off, they have this one role, and then 6, 7 years later, that's not at all what they're doing.
100%.
It depends on the day, but I want to brew more, but somebody's got to do the packaging, somebody's got to do the scheduling, somebody's got to do the ordering, somebody's got to keep those cats in line, those brew-
See how exciting that is?
So just show up when they're supposed to when I know that I need them. Why can't they just be there? That's all I have to say.
The green leprechauns don't have your address, Kyle. Okay, I got the tap, which means we're going to take some questions from you guys. Bam, Miss Steele back here.
Before they open. That may or may not be mine.
Join the guild.
Yeah, aside from joining the guild, because you'll get a lot of answers there.
Happy members of the guild.
More practically, it's honestly give a shit about everything. Don't let there be anything that is just irrelevant. It's very easy to decide that you're focusing in on a couple of things, and that there are other stuff that will just work itself out. It's fine. We'll figure that out when we get there. It's not a big deal. Everything is a big deal, and the environment, although it is not saturated, is starting to get more competitive, and customers can tell if there are things that you have lost. Thing really matters. Pay attention.
this and breathing. Every day and go, it takes longer than you expect. And things pop up and you're like, I'm not making any beer, and oh my God, I'm like freaking out, and it's like, you just gotta breathe, and you will get through it, because stress that you were under until the next day, but that first day is gonna be great.
Make good beer? I mean, like that is gonna be the defining factor of successful breweries in the future is good beer and bad beer, because you all are here because you like craft beer and they're like craft beer, and there are going to be more of you every year that like craft beer, and the more people are exposed to good craft beer, they're going to be able to see what bad craft beer is. And if you make bad beer, I don't know how you're going to do it, because people are going to find close other good beer to drink. So make good beer.
And 30% more than you think it does to open.
We're already there.
Okay, good.
You're being way generous.
Yeah, I'm being kind. Marketing. Like Kyle's beard is marketing, and I'm not even joking about that. But like everything that you do, there's too many breweries that don't actually think about the way your tap room looks, the way your bartenders experience with it. That is all marketing. That is all building an experience, like they've been saying, of what you're doing. The bartenders at Apocalypse and Mile Wide and Against the Grain, if you go into any of them, they are three very different breeds of people, and that's intentional. And to be very intentional with every single step, and that's where those details come in. Because every time somebody even sees
Questions? Yes, sir.
Did all
Did you hear him?
Yeah.
Did you homebrew before you went into the brewery? Worked in the brewery?
Yes. To be slightly less glib about it. Yeah, I did homebrew for a long time. Started figuring out recipes and things. None of them are things that actually turned into beers that I used, but they helped me to understand the process. How I got into it was a little more complex. I followed what I call an irresponsible educational path. I majored in theater, minored in math and physics, went and got a law degree, paid my way through law school, scrubbing floors and cleaning kegs, moved up to a full-time brewing position, passed the bar, and decided I'd rather be a brewer than a lawyer. So I did that.
I feel like the three of us have very different paths to get to what we're doing right now. I somewhat had an irresponsible path like Adam did. I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry from the University of Louisville, go Cards, and was pre-med whenever I started homebrewing, and I was like, I really love doing this. And then I went and interned for a local brewery, the New Albanian, over in New Albany. There I scrubbed kegs, and I was like, at the time I was like, do I go to graduate school for chemistry and then I could be in a lab all day? Or do I just go to brewing school and learn how to make beer? So instead of going to graduate school, I went to brewing school and studied the brewing science at the World Brewing Academy. And so I homebrewed for a few years before I got like formal education, worked for I knew that I didn't know anything, so I wanted to make mistakes on other people's money before I made it.
Questions?
Leah?
Did you want me to say anything?
Well, I want to get more questions in if that's okay. Yeah.
You don't want to hear about my 17 years of homebrewing experience? With my music degree from Boston University and my graphic design training. Oh, what am I doing?
Ingredients, like those you use them, you see as a market will grow.
Brewery,
That's
sure.
the perspective of it. It's generally.
Oh, what's your perspective?
First of all, we're a little bit Bourbon, when it comes to their grain and corn, are not as finicky about it as we are, because it doesn't feature as much as in the flavor as ours. Number one. Number two, Kentucky, we can grow some hops here, so those are just two of the biggest ones. All of the other places are, but we are locally grown ingredient as one of the features for it. I think that's where you're going to see more of that kind of local interface. It's not kind of with the big things like that. I don't think you're going to see like Kentucky grown hop that is going to be featured in a 6-pack of beer that's going to be sold at $8.99 at Kroger. I really just, to be honest, I don't think ingredients, which is water, and Louisville water is actually some of the best water in the country. And I just want to give them a shout out because monthly water reports on the chemistry of the actual water itself, which is really valuable information for our breweries to have.
This is kind of stepping back a bit from the local brewery scene, but in the craft beer world, it seems like there's a lot of waves. Like in the past couple of years, it's been sours, and now the hazy IPAs. Is there another wave that you think is coming, or?
So what's the next big?
Beer. Realistically, I want to say it's returning to indigenous styles. I think simple beers are starting to become more appreciated. People have kind of, and you know, 6 months, play this clip back, and I'll be just radically wrong. Sours and New England IPAs, they're interesting, kind of flash in the pan, but I don't see them being long lasting. but do it to it while you got it.
He's gotta change all these beer recipes.
But I think people, and I don't know, maybe it's just brewers, are looking for.
Because I am not a fan of that style, but I was a huge skeptic when we first started making it. Scott Schreffler, one of my partners, is a big fan of the hazy IPAs. I think they have staying power because there's a big turnoff for a lot of people with hoppy beers because hoppy beers generally translate into bitter beers. And there's a large segment of the craft beer community that doesn't like bitter beers, but likes the components of hops that are the fruity aromas and the complex aromas without that bitterness. So the way that we don't brew our Northeast IPAs with any sort of like funky ingredients that give us the beer that we have that's Tessie and Noma and soon to come Tuck Rule. But it's not the grapefruit IPA trend. And I feel like everybody else European countries. Next trend, I mean, that brewed IPA thing is what it is. It's probably that's the next trend.
Liquor stores, everybody's making pilsners. Everybody.
White American lagers.
It's a true test of a brewery. If you can making low alcohol beers again, traditional.
Okay, let's hear it one more time for our panel. Kyle?
Gibson. Let's hear it for him, man. It's harder than it looks. Thank you guys so much for being here. We have a few door prizes before you get out of here. If you, we try to collect business cards. So if you got your business card in this bucket, you could be in luck. Can I have someone help me? Kevin, you want to pull? So first we have pull 4 of them real quick. Don't look at them. And we're going to do, yeah, pull 4 at once. We've got Third Turn t-shirts. Thank you to Third Turn Brewing.
Thanks, dude.
We have Tony Maury from Lilac. Tony, you here? There you go. Next we have Michael Yelgren from MGM.
T-shirt, Cannon, T-shirt.
Okay, Kevin Ruse from Speed Pro Imaging. You have a new shirt, sir. And finally, Keith Tiltzer. Okay, we have a pair of tickets to the Kentucky Guild of Brewers Kentucky Craft Bash on June 23rd. They are going to Russ Colwell, Bandy Carroll Hillage. Russ Colwell. To the Craft Bash.
We appreciate everyone who's already supporting Insider Louisville, and you can do that online now at Join Insider. We typically live stream these events, so you have been right behind the internet the whole time. But you can go back and if there's anything you missed, you want to hear again, you can